Baby, it is July. Wow. And I feel like
And you're
I'm alive and young.
It's not really July. We're just
Well, and I'm bilocating. Don't
we're
hey, whoa,
recording
whoa, whoa.
this in
Don't
June.
don't discredit my ability to bilocate from where am I right now?
Don't discredit
Ireland. I'm in Dublin.
Don't
and
discredit our ability to record and then post something later.
Dude, I'm currently bilocating. Just everybody know that.
You and Padre Pio.
Me, Padre Pio, maybe John Vianney. There's rumors that John Vianney, and those are two of my favorite saints.
Did John Vianney bilocate?
I think he could have.
I mean, anybody could have, but I've never heard that about John Vianney.
Oh, well, I'm learning something about Irish people because I'm headed to Ireland.
Yes.
Well, I'm currently there right now.
Yeah.
And I'm headed to Medjugorje.
Yeah.
And there's this phrase in Irish that goes like this. Well, if it's not true, it should be.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. You get to maybe experience what I think what we talked about a few months back of Irish Alzheimer's.
You're mad at everybody.
You forget everything except the grudges.
Except the grudges.
That is true. When I heard that, I forget where I was on retreat. I was on retreat in Iowa, early January, and I'm reading, and I was reading. My spiritual director urged me because I was thinking about grudges.
Okay.
I was holding on to some grudges for years, and it was like we were like, all right, let's work through this. Let's get out of this. Let's not hold on to these. And one of the reasons he gave, and I was like, why am I like holding on to this? And he said, you're Irish. And I was like, well, what the heck? You can't just. And he said, look it up. And so I looked it up, and there was this whole article about Irish Alzheimer's. You forget everything except the grudges.
Is that what your parents do when your mom and dad are in the house? You're like, Marty! By the way, I love Boston accents.
Which you don't. Apparently, you've never heard. Anyway, so we're recording this in June because Father Kerry is leaving for his sabbatical. But we thought we would, get in another couple episodes.
Oh, yeah.
So that the whole summer, I'm not just like...
solo pastor
interviewing people. So we did have what you've already heard is I interviewed Father Pratt, Adrian Meneses, David Newmeyer, and then Fathers Healy and Porter.
The Associates of Pain.
As we're recording this, I have not heard what they... I was actually in the other room, but I just put my headphones on because I didn't want to... Not because I didn't I don't like them.
Rob, 5 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 3 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Okay, good.
Whoa,
all right,
shots fired.
Good, I love it.
Well, I started at 5 out of 10. Didn't even give him
a 2 out of 10? Yeah.
Didn't even give him the option.
Anyway, you can tell us what you think of the Associate Pastors of Pain.
Okay, so last month I was in Poland on a pilgrimage with 20 college students.
Yes, awesome.
19 college students, myself, and then a couple shop. Anyway, we were traveling over there, and it was just like, United kept us apart. And
yes, you had some travel issues.
We spent 3 days in Frankfurt, 2 days fully in Frankfurt airport, and 1 day delayed, and it was just mayhem. So I'm over. Hey, we have a listener in Poland, by the way, last month.
Oh.
And it was me. So I listened to the past episode, and as I'm listening to it, and I texted you.
Yes.
Luckily, I have Wi-Fi, and
luckily the internet works in other places besides the United States.
And I texted you, and I said, this podcast sounds exhausted. I didn't even recognize my own voice.
So we did one. This was a little while back, but
it was in May.
It was on
early May.
It was on priestly burnout,
and it was like,
and we both. I mean, so I listened to it after the fact, and you listened to it, and I think we both agree. I mean, we sounded burnt out. And so what was so funny is after that, I got a text from a guy he's in RCIA. He's becoming Catholic. And he was like, man, I just had no idea. Can I bring you guys some food or something?
Dude, he showed up.
Like someone had died, and so he did. He brought us over a lasagna, and I was like, "And
funeral
that's
potatoes."
So nice.
Did he bring up?
And then
No,
a lot
he
of
didn't.
people, and then lots of people kind of commented on it, and like, gosh, you guys, are you okay? So I think in a good way, I think it opened people's eyes to that there are, that, and again, this whole podcast is not just about us, but like there is a real, it's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
The burnout. And I would say, part of that was based on like a tweet that I put out, and then part of it's based on us. But I think also we would say we know a lot of priests around the country, and it's not just like, oh, Stillwater is such a hard place to be a priest, because really, comparatively speaking, it's not. We have brother priests that are
far more inundated.
The work is larger, harder. The people are less supportive. I mean, our people are supportive. I feel loved. Anyway, so we just want to reassure everyone.
Can you feel the love? Yes.
We're okay. We're okay.
Okay, but I will say this: like after that podcast, then I spent the next 12 days traveling with college students, and it was basically like 6 a.m. every morning till 11 o'clock every night, and that's really weird. I got invigorated with zeal.
So physically tiring, but spiritually, emotionally.
Yeah, like every day I laid my head on the pillow and I would sit down on the bus, and that's why I kept walking on the bus every day. Just chat. We'd pray morning and evening prayer, rosary, that sort of stuff as we traveled to different places. But I kept my feet moving, because if I sat down, I was in.
Yep.
People like taking pictures of me and putting them on our Google pictures. They're like, sound effects not included.
That's
so
awesome.
Anyway, I feel like I got some zeal back and joy and rest. Anyway, but this is not what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking about today.
Today we're talking about boundaries. And you got boundary issues. I got boundary issues. Father Porter is about to have boundary issues.
But not, we're not violating people's personal space.
Oh, what?
So this is the deal. It's a very interesting thing.
Boundary issues.
So I've had three assignments in my priesthood. Christ the King, where I was an associate pastor, and so, you just as an associate pastor, you're learning, you're taking care of people, funerals, weddings, daily mass, confessions, the good stuff.
Yep.
Then I was in charge of Bishop Kelly High School, which is not a parish, and so
it's a high school.
There was no, issues with parish boundaries. We could take any kid from anywhere. And we did. We had kids from 46 zip codes.
And they all come to one high school to play sports and do music.
And get holy.
And get holy. And get the best education in the city of Tulsa.
Heck yeah. State of Oklahoma.
Whoa. What about Holy Family Cathedral? They're starting a high school. Well, that's another podcast. Catholic high school rivalry. Bish bash. In the same diocese.
So then when I moved here, I had to learn, so one of my first questions when I learned I was coming to Stillwater is, okay, what are the parish boundaries? Because then sort of what are your
geographical
boundaries. And so I was talking to Father Ken Harder, and he said it to me, and this is the way I think of it. It is Payne County north of the Cimarron. That's our parish boundaries. But then, if you look at who goes to church here, if you look at our parish directory, you will see the vast majority have a Stillwater address. Okay,
and
Stillwater is in Payne County, north of the Cimarron. Then you'll see a lot of addresses, probably 50 to 70 maybe, that say Perkins. Okay, Perkins is Payne County, north of the Cimarron.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'll see some that say
other towns.
Perry, which is not in Payne County. You'll see Morrison.
Not in Payne
County. You'll see a little bit of like Cushing. Not in Payne County. Guthrie.
Oh, Cushing's in Payne County, isn't it?
Oh, Cushing is in Payne County, but not north of the Cimarron.
Right.
Guthrie. Not in Payne County. Orlando. Not in Payne County. Mulhall, not in Payne County. Glencoe, Payne County, north of the Cimarron. That's good.
Win.
Pawnee.
What about Agra, but not Agra?
Agra is not north of the Cimarron.
Oh.
Kearney, not north of the Cimarron.
And if you're listening out there in the world of Oklahoma and you're like, I have never heard of these places.
You should look these places up.
You should go on a little road trip and see God's country.
And then most recently, we've had some Spanish speakers coming in from other places that don't have a regular Spanish mass. Ponca City.
Oh, right.
Kingfisher.
Hennessy.
And I don't want to say like people are not problems, and I don't mean it like that. But in the world of the church, where we have a law, we have canon law, like it actually matters. So just Wellston, we have a family in Wellston.
Wellston is way.
I know, but it's Spanish. It's all about Spanish.
Okay, can we take a little like history lesson right now of just diocese and the history?
Please go.
So basically, like big diocese. So if you don't know, the diocese came from the Emperor Diocletian. This is my history lesson that it was taught to me years ago by a historian. I
think most people are going to learn something right now. Go.
Okay. Diocese came from Diocletian the emperor. He was the Roman emperor, and in order to control his empire, the Roman Empire, he broke it up into little Diocletians, or places that he called dioceses. And he put a little Caesar in each one of them. Now, benefit to the church. Sometimes the civil authorities do something that benefits us, like the University of Kansas Great Books Program started Clear Creek Monastery. Voila. And a lot of great books programs throughout the United States, all from KU. The greatest gift of KU, or the government of Kansas, to the church ever in history. Oh. So the diocese all over Europe and all over the Roman Empire. So you're talking North Africa, Asia Minor, even into Persia, modern-day Iran and Iraq, Kuwait, broke up. Even the Mediterranean was broken up into dioceses, regions that the Romans could control their locales. And so this governor, in one part, didn't have to go all around somebody else's region. He just had to talk to the governor in the next diocese. So diocesan history. Well, when the church starts expanding, what happens? They begin to plant churches. They begin to build churches. Bishops are put in different regions along with their clergy, their priests, and their deacons. And in that diocese, you have a bishop. And then as the faith spread, things were broken up into different dioceses. So, for example, in North America, it was both French, Spanish, English, French, and then Spanish along the south, and then French in the south as well. But then you also had like the Diocese of Guadalajara, Mexico, was also covered Colorado.
Yeah.
So you have historical things like that.
Yep.
So dioceses then kind of refashion themselves. I think Ireland has 21 dioceses in it, and some are very what they call.
And it's like the size of New Jersey.
No, it's half the size of Oklahoma. So it's I-35 to the Arkansas border, Kansas to the Texas border size. Because we did that with Katie Asco when we were planning our Ireland pilgrimage. We're like, what kind of geography are we looking at?
How big is this place?
Yeah, like how are we going to get?
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing.
But they had so many. So anyway, diocese, very important. And then there's geographical boundaries. So zooming in, like, Wyoming has one diocese. Arkansas has one diocese. I think New York has like 7. Boston, Massachusetts probably has 5.
4 or 5.
4 or 5. Oklahoma has 2. And it divides the state in half. So it goes, the northern border is basically I-35. But then it dips in and gets Stillwater, and then dips back out.
So they carved out Payne County.
Yep.
When the diocese
looks like
split.
Looks like a little
50 years ago. We're celebrating the Diocese of Tulsa is celebrating our 50th year. 1973.
And then it loops around Oklahoma City, around the Cimarron River, right?
Yep.
And goes along this path, and then it catches Durant, or for you people who are outside the state, Durant. And then it catches Durant, Idabel, and then hooks back up to get northeast Oklahoma, and then across the border where Granola is. Francis Murphy and his family live up north of Granola. It goes right along the Kansas border. Granola is like 2 miles from the Kansas border, and then it swings on down.
So it's very interesting. So you know, those of you who live in like border, what I like to call border towns,
Like Stillwater?
like Stillwater. Stillwater is a Catholic border town because we're surrounded on three sides by a different diocese. So if I were to have mass, I had a funeral one time in Perry.
Yep.
Right? It's a different diocese. When I get to Francis, our Pope, I have to remember that I'm in a different diocese, and I have to say, and Paul, our bishop.
Yep.
Yeah, I had mass a couple days ago at the Center of Family Love in Okarchi for Francis, our Pope, and Paul, our bishop. When I go to Houston, for Francis, our Pope, and Daniel, our bishop. Right?
Yeah.
You have to know where you are. Because you're in a different diocese. And so what happens is it gets a little complicated. It's not as easy as everybody thinks. So I had this, there's a family here that lives, they come to church here, but they live in the different diocese. Well, I'm working on their annulment. And I fill it all out. I mean, it's a big process. We get it all done. I mail it to Tulsa.
Oh, no.
Tulsa mails it back to me. And they're right. I mean, I should have known that, and I didn't. So I get a note from the judicial vicar, and it says, "We have no jurisdiction on these people. Send it to Oklahoma City." Because both bride and groom, who are seeking the annulment, they don't live in the Diocese of Tulsa. They do not have what we call domicile.
Yeah.
And so I did. So I had to kind of redo it, send it to Oklahoma City. Annulment, took a little bit, came back, and we're good. But it matters,
Yes.
It matters where you live.
Geographical boundaries.
Right. So then it also gets interesting in terms of like parish boundaries. So we have an issue. I mean, we don't have an issue, but so in Stillwater, I mean, our arrangement here is if you're a student, you go to St. John's. And if you're not a student, then you come to St. Francis Xavier.
It used to be really blurry when both of us arrived.
Right.
It was students, faculty, staff of Oklahoma State University.
But then but over time you just went wherever you wanted. So for those of our listeners who
based on the priest.
Well, so this is what happens. And so in Tulsa, in Oklahoma City, and anywhere you live, right? I mean, in Tulsa itself, in the Tulsa area, there are, 20 Catholic churches.
Yeah, let's go with that.
And so people pick their parish not based on parish boundaries. I've been told in the Diocese of Tulsa, we have not promulgated parish boundaries in decades. And I think, and I'm not, this is nobody's fault, and it's not, I think most bishops and priests, I think we have just sort of given up on enforcing it.
Yes.
Because what happens is people want, we have a consumer mindset that has made its way into the church. So if you live in Tulsa and you want, sort of high liturgy and organ music, you're going to go to certain places. If you speak Spanish and you live right next to Christ the King, you're not going to Christ the King.
Yeah, because
they don't have a Spanish mass. Christ the King is a great place and beautiful people and a beautiful church and great priests and all the things that you want, but they don't speak Spanish. And so they're going to go to St. Francis Xavier, they're going to go to St. Thomas More, all those kind of things.
Okay, my beloved home parish when I was in school, grade school, was St. Pius X. St. Pius X they built a neighborhood basically for Catholics. So when I was a kid...
That was a heavily Catholic neighborhood.
Huge Catholic. So St. Pius was there. It was full of people. Every Sunday, I remember Neva Smith, who was one of my classmates, I remember very clearly standing next to her dad at Mass one Sunday, and we were in the cheap seats, way up in the upper echelon, up in the upper row, looking down on sort of the ambo. So if you're standing at the clock, it was 11 o'clock high. And I remember standing there with Neva Smith's dad and thinking, this place is full. The choir would walk down and walk around the front and go, and it was so full. But also those neighborhoods around there were so full of Catholics. And now those neighborhoods are not full of Catholics. They're full of elderly Catholics or people who are dying.
And just other people who have moved in.
Yeah, and other people have moved in. So now those parish boundaries, which were this region, don't have that many Catholics in them. So I'm going to push you, I'm going to when we talk about parish boundaries, I'm going to lean on the does the it can't you just go wherever you want?
Right, but people do. And so I mean, I think we're not going to solve it today, but like to acknowledge that it's an issue in the church, and for pastors, when people kind of come to a place that is not their proper parish, I really struggle just out loud here of like what to do. Do I say, "We are so glad you're here. Oh my gosh, yeah. Here's parish registration form," which is actually like not required.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. Or do I say like, no, go back where you came from. But then, because what happens is a lot of times is people, there's been some experience in that other place that hasn't been very maybe positive. And I know there's people in Perkins who ought to be coming here, who don't come here because what I've heard is we're too big. They don't like the music. They don't like me. They don't, and so they go.
Start with they don't like you.
Yeah, yeah. And so
bad.
they go to another place. We had a guy for years. He lived on the east side of Stillwater. He's deceased now, and he drove right by us and went to Perry.
I mean, I have students that come here because they're like, I like being around families and not just around college students all the time. So I mean, so we balance that.
So it's so we're not going to solve it, but it's a difficult.
I think that
pastoral thing for pastors.
We know Tulsa well, so we can speak of Tulsa, where you have, like, I was at Holy Family Cathedral the other day. Beautiful church, beautiful music, lots of families. And I bet you if you looked at their zip codes, it would probably be from distances far and wide. Now, they come there for Sunday Mass because they love the cathedral. How do you minister to them? Say someone is sick and you're going to anoint them, and they live 20 miles away or 15 miles away. Now, that priest there has to go 15, 20 miles away to anoint somebody, but he also has to drive past, say the person lives in South Tulsa. As you're driving there, you have to pass 3 parishes.
Yeah, multiple.
Boom, 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 all the way down. And you go like south of St. Bernard's, or maybe it's out by St. Anne's or St. Benedict's where the family lives, or maybe it's like, east of Tulsa, out on 412, and you drive past
multiple parishes.
3 parishes on the way out there.
So it's interesting because cathedrals are kind of different in that anybody can go to the cathedral. Let's do a little canon law. So let's talk about what a parish is. So that I just want to help people to sort of choose the right parish, in the sense that I think your number one option has to be the parish closest to your house, or the parish boundaries in which you live. But you may not know that. Okay, so this is Canon 515. What is a parish? A parish is a certain community of the Christian faithful stably constituted in a particular church, whose pastoral care is entrusted to a pastor as its proper pastor under the authority of the diocesan bishop.
Okay, that's a parish.
So a parish ought to be a stable place. And that's where this sort of constant, like people jumping around. So priest moves happen. Oh gosh, he's my favorite priest. Come on, kids. Yep. We're going over there because we go wherever Father is.
It happened in Denver, 2 parishes, 5 miles. The bishop moved a guy 5 miles up the road, up Broadway, and we were living at the parish in the seminary house, and literally the church, half the people left and moved up the road.
Yeah, that's not good. And that is just, we want to discourage that. Right. So a stable community. Okay. So then here's the part about parish boundaries. Okay, as a general rule...
a general rule?
As a general rule, this is Canon 518. Okay. As a general rule, a parish is to be territorial.
Oh.
That is, one which includes all of the Christian faithful of a certain territory. So, for Stillwater, or for Payne County, St. Francis Xavier, Payne County, north of the Cimarron.
Yep. And that gravel road up north, south of that. And that's
Yeah.
there's that gravel road up north is like that's the boundary.
Well, whatever,
the northern boundary.
whatever's in the county. Oh my gosh, I lost my place. Okay, here we go. When it is expedient, however, personal parishes. So that's you.
Bam. St. John Catholic
Personal
Student Center.
parishes are to be established, determined by reason of the right, language, or nationality of the Christian faithful of some territory, or even for some other reason. That's you.
That's me.
That's you.
The rite, I'm
I'm
Byzantine, so it could be a Byzantine parish.
So in Tulsa, we have a Maronite rite. That's Lebanese.
Okay. It could be Spanish or
Burmese
that speak Zomi.
Zomi. Yeah.
So that's
that would
Catherine
be like
of Alexandria.
a personal parish. But anyway, there is you live, if you are on earth, you live in a diocese and you live within a parish boundary.
Yeah. So like Holy Family Cathedral, St. Pius. I went to St. Pius when I was a kid. My parents thought it would be very important to be involved in the parish because we go to school there. Same thing with Holy Family. When I look around at all those young families there, it's like, what's the common denominator here? And the common denominator is they all go to the school. Yeah, because, Father Gary Castle's homily, it was okay. The music, it was
I'd rather go.
It was kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
But just kidding.
But if we look at our history here, people in Stillwater, and it's not criticism, but people in, there was a lot of back and forth.
Across Highway 51, across 6th Street.
Yeah, so the parishes, St. John's and St. Francis, were, at one time, we determined 0.9 miles apart.
Uh-huh.
And people would go back and forth. Oh, let's sleep in a little bit. Yeah, I think we'll go to St. John's today.
And half my registration was St. Francis, and half of yours was St. John.
Yeah, a third of parishioners were registered in both places.
Yeah.
And so is that, if we go back to the canons, is that a stable community? And I would say no, right? So I think part of what we've tried to do under the advising of our bishop, this is not something you and I sort of just drummed up on our own for fun, because it hasn't been fun.
It's stressful.
It's been stressful. That we wanted to build a stable community, and so if you are a student, you go to St. John's, and if you're not a student, then you come to St. Francis Xavier here in Payne County, north of the Cimarron.
I saw on one occasion, and I read about it later, it go down where there was a parish that was dying. And it was an old priest, and it was some focused missionaries who got married and went to this parish, and then in their parish boundaries, and there were lots of other really excellent stuff going on at other places. And they said, if we're going to have this parish evangelize this part of town, we need to invigorate this with what we have, the skills we have.
Yep.
And so what did they do? They look around, and it's a bunch of old people. When they started having kids, they started bringing back some of these programs and like giving some energy, and even bringing some of their friends over they wanted them to move to that neighborhood because of this parish. It's like, let's reinvigorate this parish with life. And then they started having festivals again.
Yeah.
And young people, it was like downtown Tulsa. You build McNelly's, and all the other stuff started moving
and the
around.
BOK Center. Yeah.
Yep.
Last thing I'll say is that parish registration is a myth. We encourage it because we want to know who you are. We want to know, but
next you're going to say Ash Wednesday is not a holy day of obligation.
It's not.
What?
But parish registration. So somebody, if you're in a parish setting, if parish registration is required of you, there's a lot more. That could be a whole nother show. But basically, parish registration is good, and you should register in your parish, including ours. But it's not. But it's not required. You can't be denied a funeral. Let's say. Well, you can't. No, you can't be buried here because you weren't registered. Anyway, there's a lot more that could be said. There's really interesting. If you Google canon law, there's a whole bunch of like really interesting things about parish territories, but we don't have like published parish boundaries because new parishes have been founded since the last time we did. Anyway,
so take care of your boundaries.
I just want to be A good priest. All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Peace.